favorite musicians, celebrities, and other interesting folks cook their favorite recipes, sustainable recipes, from their kitchens live here right now. This is our 12th episode, and it's been fun. I hope you guys have been enjoying it too. For those of you just joining us for the first time, welcome. I will be looking at your comments here. Feel free, because we can answer some questions as they come up. We'll be looking here as much as we can. Hey, Vorvet, otherwise known as V. Yes, let's do this. So I'm Adam Gardner. I play in the band Guster, and I'm also co-founder and co-executive director of the nonprofit environmental group REVERB. Normally, we're on tour with bands like Fleetwood Mac and Dave Matthews Band and Maroon 5, greening their tour itself while engaging all their fans to take action for people on the planet. But since music, at least live music, is on pause for now, we thought we'd bring a little bit of reverb into your own homes through this episode of Quarantine Kitchen. Tonight's episode, if you are on the East Coast, or today's episode, if you're not, features two guests. This is our first time featuring a power couple. We're thrilled to have Alice and Benmont Tench. Alice is an author, a cook, podcaster, host of Instagram cooking series, Instagram to Table. And Benmont is a founding member of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, one of my favorite bands. He's a rock and roll Hall of Famer and incredible musician. Has played with so many artists, including Stevie Nicks, Bob Dylan, Johnny Cash, U2, Alanis Morissette, Fiona Apple, a bunch of folks. Thrilled to have them. So let's not wait any longer. Please welcome Alice and Benmont Tench.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
Here's the power couple.
You're the power. How's that? No pressure.
That's a riot. That's great.
Bring the power.
Hysterical. That is hysterical. Oh, brother.
Thank you for having us. This is so cool.
Absolutely.
Our
We
pleasure.
love the idea. We love the cause. We love it all. And it's food that I get to eat. So, you know.
Yeah, this is going to be our dinner, by the way. There's no trick. This is what we eat.
That's great. This is real life.
Deal.
This is real life. So tell us what you're cooking today, because I forgot to mention that in the intro.
We are going to make a very easy pasta with sauteed escarole, fresh tomatoes, because it's summer and tomatoes are in season. And that's it. Some good pasta.
Awesome. How did you get into all this? I know this is not you're not new, Alice, to doing internet cooking shows. In fact, you have your own. What was the impetus for that?
You know, it's been a year, actually. We just celebrated 1 year of Instagram to Table. And I started because I was so frustrated and sad that I couldn't get an agent for my book, that I had a breakdown. And I started cooking. And I was lucky enough that some people told me that that I could try to do it on camera to share with my Instagram followers. And it kind of started as a way of just finding relief and something to do.
Yeah.
And it became a real thing. It became a show. There's a cookbook that I just finished. And Ben has always been kind enough to be my sous chef and read all the comments on the show.
Well, that was my question. Was Ben, like, you know, how much?
I'm usually over here.
Yeah, he comes here to try the food.
Saying, Cookie Grover wants to know whether you're doing this, or Groover wants to know whether you're doing this or that. The wonderful thing is that Alice was always a really good cook, but as she dove into it more, after she had a breakdown or breakthrough, or whatever you want to call it, it's been wonderful because she's been pursuing more sustainable cooking. She's been working with Oxfam. She's been encouraging people to find outlets, to find urban farms, to get fresh produce and things to people who are local. And it's all great and it's getting deeper. Unfortunately, it takes me out of the hardcore cooking because neither of us really eats meat, and I used to eat, like, not tons, but the one thing I was really good at was a lamb burger. I'd have, like, every musician I knew over to the house and play music till 2 a.m. and make lamb burgers, but that was years ago. I can't do it anymore. But
can I just say, one of the reasons why this happened is that because I miss the old way of eating and cooking and harvesting food. Like the old way of when I was a child, that you eat what's in season, and you wait for watermelon you wait for summer to eat watermelon. You don't eat watermelon in January. And I love to share with people, to kind of remind people you can eat fantastic meals, kind of going back in time a little, and respecting, eating tomatoes when it's summer.
Yeah. Well, so
I'm going to start shopping, by the way.
Oh, please go ahead. I don't
talk. I just put some garlic in my skillet so that.
So we've got some oil, olive oil, and a little bit of garlic.
We have a complicated relationship with garlic, so we just put a whole clove and then we remove it. But people, if there's anyone there cooking with us, or if they want to replicate this at home, they can just add all the garlic they want. So, as a side note,
we don't dig it that much. But Alice is from. She is an immigrant. She became an American citizen in January, right?
Right.
And so she comes from Italy, so the old country. She comes by it naturally.
Yeah.
And I'm the beneficiary. I'm absolutely the beneficiary. And I don't know. I've always loved really good food. And the more I toured, the more opportunities I got to eat really good food. And it suddenly, not suddenly, but it dawned on me over time that the best food that I was eating seemed like the healthiest.
That's interesting. And the simplest, right? Like that's what I love about Italian cooking specifically, is like how simple and the amount of ingredients are. Like what you're doing today is what I love about it. It's elegant in its simplicity and allowing each ingredient to actually speak. But
also, you know what? It's simple, and it's not. If you look at good food, it's usually not expensive. For and then you can elevate it. But classic food in every culture, I believe, is not just Italy. It comes from a very poor and simple way of living and of growing food. That's what people used to eat. Greens and beans. Meat was for the rich, and when you had it. So I love to kind of get back in touch with that tradition as well of.
That makes total sense to me. You mentioned Oxfam, and I want to give them a shout out because Bob Ferguson especially is the one who brought us all together. So I want to say thank you, Bob, for introducing us, and also to mention that Oxfam has a guide for how to eat well. Oxfamaramerican.org/eat for good. Mm-hmm. So they have this whole Eat for Good resource, and everything that you're doing for this recipe integrates those 5 elements. Shopping seasonally, like you mentioned, eating less meat. This is obviously meat free. This dish. So putting more farmers
from the morning.
Cooking smart because all you're doing is boiling water, and obviously this food. If you make too much food, save it, and you can probably it probably reheats just beautifully.
I'm gonna tell you something today. I usually do on Twitter and Instagram a culinary tip of the day. And today, the tip of the day was when you have leftover pasta, add some Parmesan cheese and some water the following day, put it in the oven, and it makes a fantastic revisited new meal. Everything you can eat the day after, and sometimes it's even better. So don't throw away food, please.
What did you just take out of the oven?
I took out of the oven and my new obsession. These are cherry tomatoes with some olive oil and salt. They've been in the oven for 3.5 hours at 250.
Wow.
And some herbs. They become almost a jam, and they're so delicious. They're just ridiculously good.
Wow. Okay.
So that's chips. Summer, right here.
Amazing. All right. So that's part of the recipe. I know for those who are interested in following along, the ingredients are listed at reverb.org/quarantine kitchen. And you can find this episode. Obviously, we also have a link, I believe, right here on the Facebook page. But it would be helpful because we don't have the actual process written down yet, but we will after we see you do it. So far, you've heated up the garlic and the olive oil. You're now chopping the escarole and putting it in. And
the water is boiling. And I'm going to saute the escarole. This is 1 head of escarole. My trick is I love pasta. if you load a dish of pasta with greens, and the ratio is 70% greens and 30% pasta, you can eat pasta every day for dinner, breakfast, and lunch. So it's a big portion of escarole for the amount of pasta. But that's how I like to eat.
It's sort of the hamburger helper of the old school, old country cooking. It stretches it, but it stretches it great.
And you see how easy, I mean, there's really no technique here. Can you see? Well, yeah. There's no technique. You chop this, just chop it. You can even, you don't need a chopping block. You don't need a big knife. You just chop these greens.
So, and it's over medium heat, and it smells really, really good already. And those tomatoes, those small cherry tomatoes, are calling my name, so I'm staying far away from them for now.
You can get this closer so they can see them.
Alice, can you repeat, because you broke up a second, how you prepared those tomatoes and how long? Because that's a key piece.
Yes, these are just cherry tomatoes. Slice them in half. I drizzle some olive oil, salt, some thyme and basil that I have in the garden, and they cook for 3.5 hours at 250. Wow. You forget about them. And they kind of dry up and they caramelize. So it's something you can just put in the morning. I put it at 11 a.m. this morning. And you can preserve them, you can keep them, then you can freeze them. They're just there, or you can just eat them like I did.
Awesome.
They never make it to the day after.
There's something about that slow roast or slow bake that just makes it all happen.
It's really remarkable. It's really remarkable. It makes everything soft, and the juices all get mixed together.
Do you want to get can you see the skillet, or do you want the
camera? This is beautiful. Your shots look great. This is wonderful.
Everybody's in too much of a hurry, so I really like the slow cooking thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's just in too much of a hurry, and they miss out. In every avenue of life, everybody's in a hurry for faster internet speeds, and get the food right now, and load your day with just too much stuff that you have to get through it. And a lot of the times, because to make a living, you have to do a lot of stuff. But it keeps getting forced on, and it seems to me that in quarantine, I read somewhere that a lot of people enjoy working at home, but for a lot of people, it means you work even more hours because you don't get to go home from work. So it brings more stress. So if there's an opportunity to slow things down and roast the tomatoes for 3 hours.
I think that more and more people are getting into this. And, when we were just talking before we started about what you guys do at live shows, that you connect with local, there's, I think, farmers, and I think there's more and more people that are kind of rediscovering this way of living and cooking, because you guys are the proof, Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing because it helps. I mean, you're talking about how REVERB will help basically support local farmers in each community that a tour reaches by connecting them to the touring catering so they can source the farm food within X miles of every venue. And what's nice about it is not only are you getting beautiful, fresh produce from very close by and working with farmers that are operating sustainably, which is great for the planet, you're supporting these small farmers and family farmers and the community that you're in. And so, CSAs are something we really talk a lot about to fans, and making sure they can support the local farmers, especially now while a lot of those local farmers don't have the supply demand that they used to with COVID. So absolutely,
and the flavor, that's something that we were talking actually with the Oxfam team, that it doesn't mean eating not so good food, because actually if you eat local and the flavor of what you eat is a completely different experience than something that arrives from the other part of the world,
Absolutely.
So it's actually a good thing for everyone.
Absolutely.
It's good for the environment, and it's good for your belly.
So we got a question from the internet here, from viewers. They want to know what the question is for you, Benmont. What music would you pair with this dish?
Oh, I like that.
Oh, good Lord! With this dish, I would have to.
That's a good question.
A song that I found from Alice when I first went to Italy to meet her parents. Grazie di Fior.
Really?
Grazie di Fior by Nila Pizzi, not Vanilla Pizza, Nila Pizzi. Great song, just absolutely beautiful, as Italian as you can get.
That was a great question.
Grazie di fiore. Do you want me to call it up so you can hear a little bit?
Sure, why not?
I think I called that right here. But one thing, Adam, one thing that I think about in regards to slow cooking, seasonal, fresh produce, all of this, sometimes I see where people say or write that, well, that's easy for you. You know, touring, catering sounds really elite. America has a terrible obesity problem because people are in a hurry and they run through fast food on the way home from whatever job they have, or just because it's usually cheap. The drinks are filled with high fructose corn syrup, so they're supersized and all of that. And it's really important that this kind of eating not be just for the people who can not afford something, but maybe afford time-wise, and in other ways, or where you live, where there's more accessibility. And that's why the farm boxes are so useful, if you can get them delivered. And farmers markets are so useful, if you can find one in your city and the urban farms.
I wish they could smell it.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
It smells just like you want it to. But that's one thing that concerns me is for the idea of eating sustainable food and of eating really healthily and of cooking slow when you have the chance and all of this being some kind of elite, glamorous, something like that people will go, oh, well, that's easy for you to say. You know, what's your take?
Salt in the water, extremely important.
Very important.
Salt in the water. I completely agree with you, Benmont. That's an important piece. I think honestly, environmentalism in general is often seen as, oh, well, that's easy for you to think about because you're not worried about putting food on the table. And that is, you know, the reality is the communities that suffer the most from environmental injustice aren't elite at all. They're the ones that aren't in power to fight against corporate pollution or whatever it is. So yeah, that's a really important part of the work that we do and want to do more of as we go here.
So often they build the awful factories and they have the horrible dumps of toxic chemicals into canals and streams and rivers, or just vacant lots in communities of color and in communities that have lower income in general. And it's nasty because people don't have the means to really fight back. And obviously corporations have tons of, you know, the corporations without conscience. And there are corporations with conscience, but the corporations without conscience, and they are legion, they can lawyer up really well and intimidate really well.
That's right.
Wildness.
Yeah.
So, what's your solution? Tell us about that.
I think it's important, and one of the things that I think musicians have the ability to do, which is part of why Reverb does what it does, is to encourage consumer demand for proper practices, proper products that are protecting vulnerable communities, that are actually, hey, even better, helping vulnerable communities. I think because at the end of the day, companies that aren't acting with a conscience, they're chasing after the almighty dollar. And if the consumer demand is for products that are doing the right thing, then definitely. And so that's, as musicians, we have access to a lot of fans and a special relationship with those fans that they might listen. And if you can do it in a way that doesn't sound holier than thou and just something you're excited about and that you're passionate about and feel like it's important, they might come along with you. And that's so much of the work that we do with musicians.
Well, we've noticed that
when you're authentic, actually, it's true, right? When you're authentic,
if you mean it,
people feel it.
If you mean it.
Yeah.
But you pointed out the other day, you can go to your neighborhood supermarket, the big corporate supermarket, and you can find organic produce, you can find fresher produce, you can find all sorts of products that you couldn't find 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago, that you would have to go to a specialty store, Whole Foods or somebody like that, and pay bigger prices for them. But because of the demand, now you can go find actual food that's brought to you by better practices at lower prices often.
That's right.
Because you're right, the chains do listen. It's supply and demand. It's not a law, it's a choice, but it's a choice that capitalism, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So if everybody says, there's too much trash in this thing you want me to eat, give me something without the trash and don't overcharge me for it, they'll stock stuff without the trash in it.
That's right.
I think.
So Alice, where are we on that recipe? I don't want to lose track of this.
I like vegetables that are gonna almost caramelize because I think it makes them. I don't want to endure vegetables, I want to enjoy because that's I've suffered from an eating disorder for most of my life, I must say, unfortunately, and so I'm done enduring food. When I eat it, if I make the choice of eating it, I want to eat it good. I want to enjoy it, and so I don't want to just eat vegetables because they're good for you. They can be really amazing. And so when you caramelize a vegetable, it becomes, it's really good. You can't eat it without, you have this, you can just add beans, you can put in a piece of bread. It's just good. I want to eat good food. So I'm caramelizing this. There's some pasta boiling. I chose shell pasta because I love when they can fill up. Can you see it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. They get all the good stuff in here. And so, yeah, that's boiling. And I'm going to add the tomatoes at the end because tomatoes, in my opinion, either you cook them up for a long time and they lose that acidity, or you just chop them fresh and you have that balance between. This is a bitter vegetable. Mm. If people want, they can actually boil it for a few minutes before if they want to lose some of the bitterness.
Yeah.
I like it. So it's going to have this contrast of the bitterness, the fresh acidity, the oil, and the starch of the pasta. It's a perfect combination.
Nice. We have a question here from Ramona, one of the viewers right now, saying it's hard to find escarole in her area. Is there a substitution for escarole recipe that would work?
Yeah, absolutely. There's radicchio. In the winter, any broccoli rabe, anything bitter. Mm-hmm. And
what's broccoli rabe?
Broccoli is rapini. Mm-hmm. The leaves are very bitter. This one with what's that vegetable that we use that I never tried and I like the greens? Turnip greens. Turnip greens with garlic, tomatoes, and pasta are delicious.
It's the sweetness of the pasta and the bitterness of the greens is the coolest combination. It's just so cool.
And actually, any green with fresh tomatoes and some garlic works. Kale, even chard, pretty much.
Sure.
Right?
Chard, kale. Kale is something you have to use exactly right. But the turnip greens are great. This is kind of the best, but there's also some kind of do you use the Chinese greens for this ever?
Oh, right. There's a Chinese kale. It's called choy sum. They have beautiful yellow flowers, and you find them in Asian restaurants, in Asian stores.
But you also.
But if they have questions, I don't want to
find it at the farmer's market.
No, it's great. This is awesome. All right, I do want to fanboy out a little bit, if you allow me to. I definitely have a number of questions. So, you've been a Heartbreaker for over 40 years, which is. I've been in Guster for almost 30, which is shocking to me. So I'm sure saying that out loud.
It's shocking, isn't it? I quit. I started playing in Mud Crutch. I think I first sat in with them when I was 17, definitely 18. I quit college when I was 19 to play with them full time, and I'm going to be 67 in 6 weeks.
Wow!
And so it was a lifelong life that I've lived. It's family, it's blood, it's everything. You know what that's like. You know exactly what that's like.
I read that there's a story that Tom actually had to convince your dad that you had a career in music and to let you.
Well, I was in college. I quit college without telling my parents, and I was just suddenly at home at the end of the summer. My sister went off to school at the same college, and my father's like, "Why are you home?" And said, "The women's college starts earlier." Because I feared his wrath. He wasn't violent, but he could speak. And Tom just wanted to convince my dad that I wasn't throwing away my life. Right. And Tom, I think, I wasn't there for the conversation, just said, he can always go back to school if this doesn't work out, but we think we've really got a shot here. So just, why doesn't he come west with us to California, and let's see how it goes. And it worked out.
It sure did.
Not for a while. It was like, it was pretty funny looking back on it, not necessarily being there, but it did work out. But it's family and it's heart and soul, you know.
Yeah.
All of it. And my father was an incredible man. And like I said, he wasn't violent. He had command of language like Orson Welles did. If you picture somebody a cross between Atticus Finch and Orson Welles as an orator, it was pretty great.
So pretty intimidating too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. So one of the things that that I'm aware of, any band that's been around over a span of decades goes through so many creative evolutions and recreations and reinventions. Is, as you look back at over 4 decades, is there a particular era that you lean towards as like that was the peak, or not even the peak, but just you're particularly fond of creatively and musically?
I'm really fond of the things I think I look back on are the first 5 records from like 76, because the first one came out in late 76, from 76 till 83 or so. And then I think we stumbled a bit, and when Jeff Lynne came on board, there was a change in the way it was done. It was more pop than I would lean toward, though I was a big fan of Jeff's. Just for our band, it was more pop. But when we started working with Rick Rubin on Wildflowers after that, so Wildflowers, that period and the period when the band, the first like 6 or 7 years the band was together, those were my favorite things. Towards the end, I liked something about what we were doing always. And I did enjoy toward the end that Tom was really exploring sort of Chicago blues, but not as a lazy form of songwriting. Because if you look at the great Chicago blues records, Little Red Rooster, which is credited to Willie Dixon, though Wolf said that he'd been singing it since he was a teenager. The songs Willie Dixon wrote, they're remarkable songs. The blues songs the Rolling Stones write are remarkable songs. And John Lennon said, if you're going to learn to be a carpenter, you have to learn to build a chair. The blues is the chair if you want to be a songwriter. So we made a record called Mojo in 2010, I think, that I liked. But the band that had my heart always was Mudcrutch, the first band I saw Tom play in with Mike, and that I joined when I quit school, and that we put back together in 2008. And that was just magic. Yeah, that was just magic.
Well, you're talking about like the simplicity of blues, but the power of it, and actually not your. I like the way you phrase it. Not in a way of lazy songwriting. In fact, it's more challenging to make it see. What I've always loved about your work and with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is the simplicity of the songs, but the power of the songs, and all of a sudden it's about the subtleties of delivery and of performance and of course the songwriting too, but where everything matters because it's not bathed in all this other all these bebops and flashes. It's simple. It's kind of like this dish we're cooking.
Well, you got to be true to your own voice. So the people with lots of bebops and flashes, the progressive rock bands and all of that thing, I can really appreciate that. There's some that I like, some that I don't like, but I really appreciate it because they're speaking out of their heart and out of the sound that's in their head and out of their voice. That's great. But when you break it back down to rock and roll as it was in the beginning, it came from black music, especially from New Orleans and from the South and from Chicago. But Bob Dylan, the groundbreaking records, Bring It All Back Home and Highway 61, there's so much blues in there. Mike Bloomfield's the lead guitar player. I like when it comes down to simplicity a lot. This dish, like you said, it's very basic. And Alice has been finding these beautiful recipes. She has her grandmother's diaries.
Wow.
And her grandmother's diaries have recipes.
Amazing.
Her grandmother's recipes.
But what you were saying about music is that what we're talking about. Whatever, when it comes out naturally and authentically, whatever it is that you do, whether it's electronic music or classical music or rock music, people can tell if that's your medium. If it's you, people know. But Can we mention that we met on Hypnotic Eye? Because I really, I have a crush on that album.
We met just when the Hypnotic Eye record was about to come out, had just come out. And she came on the tour, and she was living in Hollywood, and her air conditioning broke. And I had air conditioning, so while I was out on tour, she came to the house to have air conditioning until the heat wave left. The heat wave left, but Alice never did, and that's a good thing. So, on the
But you know what's weird? I remember being on our first date, I guess, and he told me that he was going on tour the following week. And I had this surreal and movie-like idea of rock stars. And I thought, so I'm not going to restart a relationship with. He's a rock star. He's going to be around the world and all these women around him, and he's going to live the crazy life. And
rock star, right?
You know, I will never forget. He was in the show. You called me.
I did.
As soon as he got off stage in San Diego.
Yeah, I wasn't
in 2014.
Because I wasn't.
And then
kidding.
I know that it was real. He was playing San Diego, the first date of the show, the first day, the tour.
The second I got off the stage, I called you. So I wasn't kidding. And now we have a 2.5-year-old, so obviously I'm not kidding.
It all worked out. But I think it does take, so my wife and I have been together, we met in 93. And I was starting a band and touring then. And it takes a certain couple to kind of deal with that, the rubber band stretching when you're going out on tour and missing each other, not seeing each other. And especially, in the decades where you couldn't just do this big thing that we're doing right now, where the cell phones didn't exist. You have to go pull over on the side of a highway and, get on the phone, get on the payphone.
I never put together a relationship until we were traveling in a way that, it was a real blessing because we were traveling in high style. So, and there was room. So if I wanted to come out, and I did, there wasn't room on the bus, it wasn't anything like that. You froze a little. Are you cold? No, you didn't freeze. So we were really fortunate. We've been together, what was that, 5 years of marriage? So we've been together just 6 years. Mm-hmm. It was like 6 years ago around now that we had our first date.
Yep.
And it was really good timing, because I don't know how anybody else does it, the other guys in our band who were married when we started the band. And you leave, there wasn't even a Walkman or an iPod, You just kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and you lose the radio station in the van, and you got another 8 hours in ice cold weather, and you can't even find a phone to call back to your loved ones or your family. So we got lucky. We got super, super, super duper lucky. And look at this.
That Hypnotic Eye's in my heart. So I just wanted to say that because it is
great.
My heart.
So you boiled the pasta. Look at this.
See, it has that. They always have the Italian flag. All these dishes. I'm gonna have to saute for a second before we try it. But
the Italian flag mean the red, white, and green right there.
Yeah.
So a little food hack, which is not really a hack, but we're not gonna eat this. It's 2:35 p.m. here, so we're not gonna have this for a few hours. So if you know that you're not gonna,
we're gonna taste it.
We're gonna taste it, but if you slightly undercook the pasta, it's gonna keep a little bit more for dinner.
Right.
When you make the pasta a little bit early, like I did, some olive oil, and then you can combine it with whatever you're cooking.
And so when you
pasta.
So when you all right, so we're definitely gonna do a taste because we have to have that for this show because we want to have vicarious taste. But before you do that, I was just curious. So when you do reheat this later for dinner, will you put it back in your saute pan, or how will you reheat?
I like the oven a lot, and especially if you add a tiny bit of water and you cover it with aluminum foil, it keeps it moist. Or if you want to add the moisture, not the moist. English is not my first language. You can also put some Parmesan, like any cheese, grate some cheese and put it in the oven, and it's going to create this little nice crust on top.
Mm-hmm.
So the oven is my first choice. I wouldn't re-saute it. Microwave is the least favorite choice, but sometimes we need it. And also put some chili flakes on this. It's gonna really take you down to the south of Italy. And this is a very southern dish. So yeah, chili flakes as much as you want.
Chili flakes, or you can get dried peppers in Italy. Her father brings them sometimes. Don't tell, the agriculture department or something. And you crumble them. They're these dried red peppers, long red peppers, and you crumble them into the pasta.
And one thing that we always talk on the show about it, I like these recipes that are open-ended and that people can personalize, they can add, they can change and also that they don't have a specific quantity. I learned to cook watching my mom and my grandmother, and I learned to taste. You are going to have to eat this meal, so you have to taste it. Does it need oil? Does it need salt? You can't say a tablespoon of salt. Well, a tablespoon is a lot, but just trust your instinct, and you're going to ultimately eat the meal. So if you like it, it's the perfect dish. So
it's true.
Trust your taste and your trust what you like. That's how you're gonna cook a good meal.
Absolutely.
Right.
I think also for folks who are, myself included, who are cooking more during quarantine, which is why we're calling it quarantine kitchen. Something I've learned, I didn't really cook all that much when I was afraid of new recipes. And I think getting over that fear is important. And that's why I love this dish, because it seems like it's kind of a no-fail situation. Here are the ingredients, put them together, and it's going to taste great. And then it just comes down to personal preferences.
What's your favorite thing to cook?
Well, these days I've been obsessed with making sourdough bread. We had actually, as part of Quarantine Kitchen, we had Tom Papa, a comedian, come on here and make sourdough. There's your starter.
Do you make pizza from it?
I just did last night. It was amazing. Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's a completely different experience, right?
Yeah, loving it. So that's been fun, especially because I know, because the sourdough has a bit of tending to throughout the day, I know this is a special time where I can really hone my skills and figure it out, but it actually has more flexibility than I thought.
Once you get familiar with it, once you get to know her.
That's right. Uh-oh, is this the big taste?
Sure. I don't have it now. If they have pecorino cheese on this one, that would be great. There's a cheese called ricotta salata, which is a semi-soft sheep cheese.
Okay.
Anything sheep on here, I mean, they can put whatever they want, but sheep with the bitterness creates a beautiful...
Are you going to put any of the sun-dried tomatoes on there?
No, do you want sun-dried tomatoes? Yeah. I mean, they're not sun-dried, they're oven-dried.
Oven, faux sun-dried. Although some finally came out here.
Can they see it? Can you see it?
Yeah. You can. That looks lovely. Look at that. Beautiful.
What other countries have a flag this red, white, and green?
Mexico?
Mm-hmm.
All right, how's that taste?
We don't have to wait till dinner to eat this, do we?
The vicarious. The vicarious.
I would add some oil.
Adam, I'm so really spoiled.
This is so good. Rotten. Seriously. It's not... It's healthy, but it's just good.
That's right.
I would add some oil. What you get on my show is always the truth. If something is missing, I'll tell you. But I would add some oil and some salt, no?
Some salt.
And chili?
Salt. Chili, yes. But what's incredible is my friends and I, we really like good food. I used to go to these restaurants all the time. What's the new great, legendary, fantastic, legend-making restaurant, Italian restaurant, whatever. People tell us, you've got to try this place. And we go, or I'll go with my friends someplace back when you could go. And however great the place is, it's like, I eat better at home.
Right.
I really eat better at home. It's astounding.
That's a good thing. That's a good problem.
Oh, yeah. No kidding.
So we're kind of getting towards the end of our time together, but I do want to mention a few things that I have not gotten to yet. So Cliff Bar has been a sponsor and supporter of this kitchen, and as part of their support, they're giving away 1,000 Cliff Bars to charity of the guest chef's choice, because they're actually doing this as part of. They've actually committed to giving away 14 million bars to hungry kids and families this summer. So you've chosen Midnight Mission Homeless Shelter in LA.
Well, they do such good work, and we thought that they would be able to distribute them well.
And you guys
and
with the
put
band
them
have
to
been
good
big
use. We've been big supporters of Midnight Mission. Yeah.
Of Midnight Mission.
So
we have a big problem here in LA.
It's
which
just
is homelessness.
It's a tragedy. It is
And,
a tragedy. So many people who are experiencing homelessness out on the street. It's pretty shocking, and they're all individual people with individual stories, and they're living in tents or not even a tent in encampments along the LA River, which is actually a river that was lined with cement decades ago, or along streets. It's just so tragic and awful. So anybody that helps Midnight Mission has been doing this forever, and so thank you, Cliff Bars.
Awesome, and thank you guys for choosing them.
Thank you, Reverb.
Oh, it's just been great. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this. I have one more announcement to make, but I wanted to talk about, it's interesting because we've been talking a bit about like how do we get food to hungry people that need it, especially these days with everything that's going on with COVID. It's more of an issue than ever. One of the programs that we're working to develop is Farm to Family, where we connect the farmers that we have to, because there's a lot of food kind of laying fallow in their fields, unfortunately. To help glean and deliver that fresh produce to food deserts and hungry communities that need it. And as part of that, we did a fundraiser, and we've been doing this ongoing thing called Buy REVERB a Beer, which is the idea is that people can give them, since we can't go to concerts, take the beer. We want your beer money that you would normally spend at the show, and we'll use it for things like this program. And we actually do a little prize. So I have to announce that Jennifer May won this week's Buy REVERB a Beer as a donation. So thank you, Jennifer, for donating.
Bravo.
What a cool thing.
She won a personal Zoom little meeting with me. I'm going to play her a couple songs if she wants to. I'll teach her sourdough if she'd rather do that, if she doesn't care about my music.
Speaking of songs, I found the song that is the Italian song that strikes me, if you'd like to hear it.
That's a very cool thing, by the way.
Thank you.
Oh, that's the wrong version.
And you know what? I would love, afterwards, we'll post the song so people can find it for sure. We'll post it on our right here on Facebook, or also at reverb.org/quarantine kitchen.
Can you remind me the name of because I want to mention it on Monday on my show. Is that Farm to Family?
Yeah. Yep.
That's really amazing. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a program we've been running outside of COVID, but we're tweaking it because of.
Right. Right. I love it.
Yeah.
Can I play you a little of this, or is it going to run afoul of performance rights? Can you hear that?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And that's what this tastes like. It's thank you for the flowers, and I think it's sarcastic.
Lovely. Why aren't you two dancing right now? I don't understand. This is like the perfect time. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of Quarantine Kitchen.
We're doing the Tom.
Thank you.
You're
super cool. I love what you guys do. This is amazing.
Truly
Thank you
lovely.
for thinking of us.
Thank you so much for including us.
Bye, guys.
So
Bye
much.
to all of the viewers, and try this.
It's so great. And please check out Instagram to Table as well. Mondays, right? 5 p.m. Pacific time.
Yeah. So
check that out.
If you try this pasta, let me know. I really would love to see what you come up with.
Absolutely. And don't go away. We're saying bye right now, but I want to talk to you after we get off line here. But thanks everyone for.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Oxfam. Thanks, Cliff Bar. And thank you to Alice and Benmont Tench.
Thank you.